Hi there. I'm Christine Zibbs with Wired Schools, and my partner, co-founder Nichola Lake, and I were recently invited to present before a group of top realtors on the topic of the dark side of smart home technology. We really appreciated the opportunity, and for purposes of sharing this as a tool that we invite you to use to adapt it to your intended audience, we are bringing this to you again along with our script and our handout links and reference citations. So we hope you'll find this helpful for your own use. But again, we say that we are presenting Cliff Notes through a fire hose because there's so much to understand about this very important topic. It's kind of difficult to distill it to 15, 30, even 45 minutes, but we are going to be covering the surface and creating a lot of links for you to go further if you would like to. And we always ask that you not take our opinion as your own, but we hope to pique your curiosity, so you'll want to check it out for yourself to see what you think. We have nothing to sell, no products, no services. We're not representing anyone affiliated that might be mentioning, no products, no professionals. And like both Nichola and I are independent. I'm an independent natural wellness journalist and health rights advocate, and take no compensation for my work at all. I wouldn't want anyone to be able to suggest my opinions are bought and paid for in any way. So we hope you will relax and enjoy the information. It's merely being provided because we know that it's important for everyone on the planet to understand how this technology works and for all the wonderful convenience that it has. And we certainly agree with that there is a downside, a dark side, if you will. So we hope you'll relax and open mind and consider what we have. And so take what resonates and leave the rest behind. And again, we do really appreciate this opportunity. I'm a former realtor back quite a long time ago when the technology was not as advanced as it is now. Back then I had a pager and a box with a voicemail, very old school, but at least it did not emit the pulse microwave radiation that the wireless devices do now. So that's the essence behind this message for you today. But because I was a realtor, I was a trainer of realtors, an office manager, I had my own home staging company, and I decorated model homes for builders, that I feel like I have my fingers on the pulse of the real estate industry pretty well. So we're especially delighted to be able to bring you this information because of that. So thank you again for the opportunity. And with that, I'd like to pass along the floor to Nichola to share with you about her background.
Well, firstly, thank you, Christine, and also deep gratitude for everyone listening into this. Your time and attention is the most valuable thing we have these days, so thank you for being here. I'm a mother of many, and I care deeply that parents shouldn't be forced to choose between the health of their children and a public education. So there are simple, easy ways that we can reduce the risks in our day-to-day lives from this technology at home and at school and at work. And I'm excited to share these with you today.
Wonderful. Thank you. Before we get started with our portion of this presentation, we'd like to share this very short video to help set the stage. And this is being shared courtesy of the kind folks at EMFoff.com.
Let's be clear. Electrosensitivity, often referred to as electromagnetic hypersensitivity or EHS, is not a disease, a weakness, or a figment of the imagination. It is a biologically correct response to an environmental pollutant. In one sense, those with EHS are fortunate because they are aware of how microwave technology is affecting them, and the rest of us are fortunate to have them around. They are the lamplighters, the canaries in the coal mine, who alert us to the dangers and absolute folly of pervasive microwave radiation in our environment. Whether or not you think you are being affected, whether or not you feel the effects, you are being affected. Of course you are. Do you honestly think that radiation that passes through concrete buildings to get to your phone does not also pass through you? Are you aware that your heart and all your cells run on tiny electrical impulses that can be affected by tiny amounts of man-made electromagnetic radiation? Are you aware that this radiation messes with your blood cells and your all-important blood-brain barrier? Are you aware that it can exacerbate and even initiate all kinds of health issues that you may not have associated with microwave radiation? Those with electrosensitivity can physically feel this radiation as plainly as you feel the heat from an open fire. They don't need to prove the science, as the perpetrators and promoters of this technology would have them do. There is no point in engaging in such discourse. The industry is well funded, well prepared to face the music, and adept at creating spin and doubt designed to handle controversial situations, as has been done in the past with smoking, asbestos, thalidomide, and more. And anyway, their arguments are a cynical cover-up of what they have always known, that this technology is dangerous to human health. No, those with EHS aren't playing games. They didn't choose to become microwave refugees with all the health, financial, and social challenges that result. They didn't choose to lose their savings, their homes, and their livelihoods. They would much rather be enjoying a happy, healthy life with the freedom to go where they do choose. But their bodies cannot lie. Their bodies will never be convinced by spin, clever arguments, or pressure to fit in and stop making a fuss. And they should not be forced into social isolation, be marginalized, ridiculed, or regarded as hypochondriacs. As the numbers of those with EHS grow, and the impact on our nation's health and finances continues to increase, those who feel the radiation should be valued for recognizing and acknowledging the truth. They are the ones we should be listening to if we are to survive on this planet. Because it's not just about us. Our whole ecosystem is affected. The birds, bees, animals, and plants on which we depend for our survival are all being affected by this known carcinogen, this known biohazard. Our children are particularly vulnerable. If you use your mobile phone near your children, if you allow your children to use a wireless device, if you expose your children to Wi-Fi at home or at school, they do not have the means or wisdom to object. But when they reach adulthood and are unable to conceive, they might have something to say about it. They will hold you responsible for knowingly exposing them to harm. It's time to wake up to what's going on, to face our denial and take responsibility for our choices. It's time to EMF off.
We're going to be shifting to share some slides with you as we walk you through some of the information. Today, we'll do our best to share what man-made electromagnetic radiation is, how it is impacting all living beings on the planet, examples of some of the sources, how it relates to the real estate business, including the so-called smart homes, measures we can take to lower exposure, and suggestions for standing up against the proliferation of wireless devices, installation of more cell towers and small cell antennas. Again, we share information to hopefully pique curiosity and never ask others to take our opinions as their own, to not believe our words, but research our words. So we ask if you are familiar with electromagnetic radiation and its health impacts from wireless technology. Most of us are not aware of this through mainstream means. So if it's a new term for you, not to worry, that's what this is all about. We all bring different levels of understanding. So we'll be covering, for those of you who are totally new to the topic, to those of you who are more experienced with understanding the health impacts, especially behind this technology. This technology actually, as the slide says, it's been described as the worst threat to our health, personal privacy and safety, democracy, and national security. And here are some important reasons to support this stance. And again, you'll be able to access this PowerPoint presentation if you'd like to revisit some of these slides, or just feel free to pause as you're going through and to read it more detailed. So it's important to point out that we're talking about man-made environmental pollutant, not natural. Tens of thousands of peer-reviewed, non-industry supported, published scientific studies have shown this radiation to harm brains, bodies, and future generations. We're electromagnetic beings. And a good example of this that we're using, a little diagram of electroencephalogram, is that, when a patient is ventilated in the hospital and no other means of determining the absence or presence of life, they will use this tool. And it can be the only indication showing the status of the patient. And wondering if you recall back when doctors glamorized smoking. It took a long while for them to come out to admit the health dangers, or even to realize it themselves. And this is kind of along the same lines, only a little bit more serious, in that exposure to the electromagnetic radiation, or EMR, is actually more dangerous, for it's occurring 24/7. And while we are in control of our own use and exposure to this to a large degree, we're surrounded by electrosmog from others at levels that have increased 1 quintillion-fold since the time of pre-man. If you can envision that, it's hard to get your head around that. It was for me, but that's a 1 with 18 zeros. And it's important to keep in mind that man-made electromagnetic radiation has not been proven safe. We are proponents that industry and regulatory agencies adopt the precautionary principle that calls a halt to further use and installation of this technology until it can be proven safe by non-industry funded studies. As a former realtor, I know how vital your phone is for your business. However, did you know that 30 minutes of cell phone use a day doubles your brain cancer risk? In fact, a California realtor, Alan Marks, asked if he could deliver a special message to you. You'll see it as one of your handouts in the attached links below. But in a nutshell, from his long-term cell phone use, he developed glioblastoma, a type of brain cancer, a very serious type. And he never thought it would happen to him. He knew that he was using his cell phone a great deal and inside of his car. But he just thought, like many of us do, oh, well, it won't happen to me. I'll not worry about that, or I'll worry about that another day. But you'll see his letter, and he's asking you basically to be more cautious and be safer with your cell phone use. And again, we should probably back up to assure you that we're not at any point suggesting that you disregard or not use wireless technology. We use it ourselves. However, it comes at a cost if we use it recklessly. So it's very important to understand where it can come from, and the fact that this is cumulative. So it can all of a sudden come up and wallop you one day when you think you don't feel anything, you're fine. All of a sudden, I understand that when you turn to be electro-hypersensitive, they call it, that it could be so serious that you can't stand to be on the other side of a street as someone coming toward you with their cell phone on. So I have a very good friend who wrote a book about that, Olga Sheehan, called EMF Off, and she tells in great detail about her experience with this. So it's also important to point out that children are most vulnerable to this exposure. They can absorb up to 10 times the amount of radiation as adults. And again, it's cumulative. They are very highly exposed to this technology inside and around their classrooms. Many, many wireless devices there. So did you know that cell phone and wireless device manufacturers instruct us that we should hold the phone away from the body? So carrying our phone in our bra may cause breast cancer. And boys and men, carrying in your front pocket may impact fertility and prostate cancer in your back pocket, colon cancer. And you may ask about Bluetooth devices. I've known some folks who seem to think that that's safer. Not really sure why they get that idea, but if you're one of those who has used a Bluetooth device, you might be wondering how that might fit into the picture. And here you will see more information from some experts on this topic. You might want to revisit that to see what you think. And here are a couple of alternatives to using Bluetooth headsets to consider. Here are some symptoms to be aware of in yourself and others. And as you'll see, symptoms such as depression, fatigue, tiredness, headache, dizziness. I mean, we all get this from time to time. But the trick is how often, and are your children presenting in this after they've been in school? Do they feel better at home than they do at school? Are they getting frequent nosebleeds? I understand from school nurses that has been increasing. So just another thing to be aware of. And to know that there's a solid connection between the proliferation of this technology with the growth of disease over the past 3 decades. And so there's a connection there, as I'm sure you'll be able to see. And Nichola will be taking us on a tour of some examples of devices emitting this radiation, as well as show how industry is skilled at camouflaging and hiding cell towers and antennas.
Thanks, Christine. So what is wireless technology? It works by transferring information and power using radio or microwave frequencies. So it's in the air, you can't see it, smell it, taste it, or touch it, but it's all around us. Some examples of devices that emit RFR, or radio frequency radiation, and electromagnetic frequency, EMF, radiation include but are not limited to cell towers, smart meters, cell and cordless or DECT phones, Wi-Fi routers, computers, laptops, printers, tablets, smart appliances, wearable wireless devices like Fitbits and watches, gaming consoles, home security systems, wireless headphones or earbuds, and baby monitors. The list is growing. So I'm here to talk about solutions. Here's one of them, which is a wired set, like the old-fashioned phone. One thing you can do with your cell phone is there are adapters like this one. So Ethernet to either Lightning or whatever. You have to make sure that it's compatible with your specific phone. Identify and measure the levels of EMF in your environment. Use a meter. Eliminate unnecessary devices. So to reduce exposure, wire all remaining devices with Ethernet or fiber optic cable. Keep your distance. Place laptops not on your lap, but on tables, and use text or speakerphone when using a cell phone. Shielding and grounding are also options. And for an in-depth investigation, consider hiring a qualified building biologist. So the main point here is to get wired. You can use blue light blocking lenses because of the high intensity light generated by LED screens that can damage the retina, even with moderate use. So wear glasses that effectively block the blue light from passing through the lens, for use at night especially, and during the day when you're exposed to excessive artificial light. There's apps like the F.Lux app that makes the color of your computer display adapt to the time of day. There is a layer of film you can place on your screen, and optical glasses that have the same lenses. One of the biggest emitters in your home is a wireless phone, the kind that pulls out of the base station. Both the phone and the base station emit wireless radiation. So replace that if you can. Create distance between you and your wireless device. Turn it off, turn the Wi-Fi off, use airplane mode and turn Bluetooth off. especially at nighttime. If you can, turn off your Wi-Fi router and ask your internet provider how to connect with plug-in cords, and turn off the antenna feature on the modem or router. Wireless game stations and controllers, it's important to wire those. Hardwire your accessories, so your printer, your keyboard, your mouse. Wi-Fi printers are a hidden source of constant Wi-Fi emissions, and some printers allow the wireless antenna to be turned off via an internal network setting. Power off your wireless devices when driving, and you can download your maps before you travel and still use your GPS. Use your speakerphone or a wired earpiece. When you're not using the phone, be sure to power off or set the phone on airplane mode. Children should not use mobile phones except in an emergency. The safest way to use a cell phone is to turn it off and use a corded landline. Safeguard your sleep. Power off all screens and electronic devices well before bedtime, at least 2 hours. Using your cell phone as an alarm clock, most people do, and you can set the phone to airplane and still use your alarm feature. Charge everything outside of the bedroom and locate your screens in family areas, not in bedrooms. Decrease time and length of use and read the fine print. The manufacturers are very clear about notifying you of the RF radiation exposure on rating from their devices in their product safety and warranty information literature. And then lastly, tell everybody you know about this information. Help your friends, schools and community learn what you now know. These tips were all brought to you by the Environmental Health Trust, and they're a great resource.
Excellent, Nichola. That, as you can all tell, there are many things we can do to use this technology safer. And speaking of industry, they have been rather crafty with disguising and camouflaging.
Yes, here's how the industry camouflages cell towers in plain sight. And when you start noticing these, you'll start seeing them everywhere. Inside of church towers, on top of buildings, on the side of buildings, in side of water towers, cleverly disguised as flag poles. And if you attend a church, school, or place of employment with these present, ask those accountable to produce proof of safety and their liability insurance for long-term biological harm.
I think especially out here in Colorado, we've seen like the top left photo of the pine tree cell tower. So sometimes they're so sadly done, they can be kind of insulting as well as dangerous. And then of course we never like to see them around schools. In the right photo there shows them disguised as chimney antennas. And that happens to be a school building, that red brick one.
So here's the symptoms experienced by people living in the vicinity of cell phone base stations in this study by Santini. You'll notice that the closer you are to the base station, the more you'll experience symptoms such as fatigue, headaches, difficulty concentrating, irritability, skin problems, dizziness, memory loss, movement difficulties. And microwave radiation doesn't discriminate. It affects all biological life, even if we don't feel it or have symptoms.
Very good thing to point out. And I've often said that this can be such a tough sell. We're dealing with an invisible force, so to speak, that we can't see, smell, taste, hear, or feel it for the most part. And it does affect every living being on the planet. Our birds, bees, insects, even our trees, and our pets. Again, our children are the most vulnerable. So we have a little visual of, you've probably heard of 5G on the horizon. The small cell towers, antennas, they're being moved into place, whether or not they're geared up for 5G. for the most part, the 4G frequencies right now, but they're definitely a force to be reckoned with. And it's almost like they're hoping we won't question it. They give a really big sell that, oh, it's great. You're going to be able to download your movies faster speed. It's fabulous. But there's definitely a downside, a dark side. So that's kind of what's inspiring us to give you this message. So 94% of home buyers reported that cell towers and antennas in a neighborhood or on a building would impact their interest in a property as well as the price they'd be willing to pay. And 79% said under no circumstances would they ever purchase or rent a property within a few blocks of a cell tower or antenna. Even buyers unconvinced there are no adverse health effects from technology in your property are concerned that potential buyers might be. And this shows a visual of how real estate can be devalued by radiation emitting transmitter on the property. And top realtor Sherri Long, she shares her thoughts when she compares wireless devices in and around smart homes with physical defects associated with a property. And she asks, if we don't tell, are we potentially violating our fiduciary duty? And did you know that real estate agents can hold the most power in court to hold up the installation of a cell tower? That would be a wonderful thing. It might be something you might want to look into if you have interest in that area. So, wanting to share with you a great tool to check out properties within proximity to cell phone towers and antennas, the SantanaSearch.com. And this one happens to show how many are within 2 miles of the location of our original presentation at this Realtor Association recently. There were 152 cell phone antennas within 2 miles of this location. And this particular tool is not a comprehensive indicator. For example, it doesn't show unregistered towers, but it will give you a very good idea of the level of densification in any particular area. You just plug in the address you're interested in. So, you may have heard of some slick gadgets on the market like shungite or orgonite or some sticky back stone for your cell phones. But we'd like to caution you before going this route. We believe that the best protection is to lower exposure by safer practices. Here we share some info from experts on this. And here's a list from Tom's Guide, Best Smart Home Devices of 2019. And there are many manufacturers out there making a lot of money by selling the convenience, the glamorization with no mention to a downside to that. So actually, there were 17 such devices featured in a major network smart home this year on television. We asked building biologist Risa Suzuki if she'd care to guesstimate the radiation levels there. She said, quote, easily in the thousands of microwatts per meter squared. Smart homes also have a massive control center. Most tech-heavy homes also have boosters or mesh networks as well. Unwinding the tech is also very costly and not as straightforward as you think because the switches aren't traditional, i.e., they've all got chips, so it's not an easy switch. Elizabeth Kelly, Executive Director of Electromagnetic Safety Alliance and former associate real estate broker in Washington, D.C., shares a personal experience with a friend who lived in a smart house for 23 years. They became very sick from this technology, otherwise known again as electrohypersensitivity or EHS. And this particular couple, they weren't able to dumb down that house, and sadly, they had to move. So we're honored to share with you that both Risa Suzuki and Elizabeth Kelly will be our guest expert panelists for our upcoming online roundtable on this topic on Saturday, October 12th.
With this slide, check out the projected growth of smart homes in the US, up to almost 30% by 2021. This data is 5 years old, but see how prevalent smart tech is in US homes. In 2016, the National Association of Realtors conducted a survey amongst their members on smart homes, and locks and security were the top 2 types of device and function most important to clients. With 42% of members interested in a National Association of Realtors smart home certification, where only 15% of clients were asking about smart home technology.
Excellent. I'm glad you shared that survey you took. I found that quite telling and very timely. So, in addition to the radiation from wireless devices, there are other details associated with smart home technology, including solar panels, smart meters, dirty electricity, etc. Solar panel arrays are run by high-powered Wi-Fi systems, definitely not a green technology, and is a major fire hazard due to the dirty electricity and electrical transients that are the inevitable byproducts of the system. Best advice here might be to suggest that if a client is considering purchase of a smart home, they should look into engaging an independent certified building biologist to measure the radiation levels within and around the home. This will include a written report with recommendations on how to mitigate the exposure. And by the way, I'd just like to offer that we can put you in touch with an EMF expert, Jeremy Johnson, who has vetted many of these building biologists all over the United States. And so if you would like to be connected with him, who can connect you in turn with someone in your area, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We'll include our email addresses in the comments below. So here's a quote from Olga Sheehan. And I mentioned earlier she has personal experience with this technology. So she says that microwave radiation has been used by the military as a weapon since the 1950s, but it's not harmful when it's used for non-military purposes, right? And lastly, we figure we'd like to wrap up with you to share our upcoming free online roundtable. It will be taking place this coming Saturday at 4 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. And if you're interested in joining us, you will be able to attend. The attendees won't be appearing on the screen, so if you're shy, you don't have to worry about that, but you'll be able to see and hear all the action coming to you from our 2 guest experts, Risa Suzuki and Elizabeth Kelly, hosted by Nichola and I. And you'll have an opportunity to pose questions to the experts that will be covered in our question and answer session after the presentation. And you'll see the join number link below to join the Zoom meeting. All you need to do is highlight that and plug that link into your browser. So you'll be getting right in to join us there. So on that note, we'd like to thank you very much for your time. And Nichola, thank you so much for partnering with me in this effort with Wired Schools as well as this message.
It's my honor. Thank you.
Absolutely, and mine as well. And please, we would love for you to stop by and click on like and subscribe, share this message far and wide with your friends and your network. That would mean a lot to us to help us share the message. So thank you very much for your time and attention, and we wish you well. Bye for now.